On to National 2 North now, where there is only one place to start, and that is at Aberdale Park, where two unbeaten sides in the form of Sheffield and Leeds Tykes met in round 7. Now, we always knew this could be a tight, intense affair, given that 5 points separated both meetings between the clubs last season. And here it was the boot of James Watt who kicked a penalty 4 minutes from time to seal a 13-12 win in Leeds Tykes' favour. We certainly gave it the big build-up on last week's preview show, didn't we? And it certainly delivered in terms of being an engrossing National 2 North clash. That was Sheffield's first defeat at home in over a year, whilst Leeds, it's now 7 wins from 7, and they continue to march on, don't they, to Pete Seaborn's side. And you could argue that was possibly the first real statement of intent of the season in terms of any race for the title. And we know we're only 7 rounds into the season. We're not even a third of the way through the campaign yet, but it did feel like a big result at Aberdale Park last Saturday. But Lim will have something to say potentially if you are talking about the fight for top spot in these early rounds of the season, as another ruthless showing from them saw them defeat Otley 53-22. The Leeds top try scorer Nathan Beasley helped himself to a brace in this one, as Lim made it 35 points from 35 and 7 wins from 7. So what it means for the table then is Lim, Leeds and Sheffield remain in the top 3, but Lim have nudged themselves to the summit. And just to note as well, Lim hosts Leeds Tykes on November 9th, which is the first game after the rest week. So that is certainly a fixture to look out for after the first break in the season as we enter November. Elsewhere, Fylde stay 4th after a 4th bonus point win in a row. Things certainly beginning to click for the Lancashire outfit. They defeated Harrogate 61-14 last time out, with fly half Patrick Bishop superb at 10 for Fylde. While down at the bottom, there is no change for Sheffield Tigers or Tynedale after round 7. Time were on the wrong end of a Ben Ivory hat-trick as Chester eventually surged to a 46-19 victory over the North East outfit. But will Tynedale be able to change their fortunes in round 8? They are one of our featured clubs on the National League Rugby preview show this week as they prepare to host Fylde at Tynedale Park. And Tyne actually approached us to be featured on this particular week, with so much going on at the club on Saturday, not least their second annual Women in Sport lunch, where women from all sporting backgrounds in the region come together to socialise, network and enjoy some great food and drink, whilst also celebrating playing and being involved in sport. And I know Tynedale's Vice President Annie Lees has put in a tremendous amount of work around this year's lunch, and I believe the event has now been sold out and it is even oversubscribed for this year, which is great to hear. And it really is great work from Tynedale and Annie in particular. And it's not just rugby which is represented at this lunch. You have all different kinds of sports, from cricket, tennis to powerlifting and even equestrian. So it really does add to the community feel that will be there on Saturday at Tynedale Park. And we know Tynedale pride themselves, don't we, on being a hub of the community in the Tyne Valley and in the North East region in general. So we chatted to Director of Rugby Peter Southern, as well as Club President Neil Foster, to find out a bit more about this, as well as how the club have settled with a new coaching structure in place this season, with former Leicester Tigers and Newcastle Falcons boss Dean Richards, as well as former Falcons player Carl Ferns being part of the setup now at Tynedale Park. And of course, we also looked ahead to their clash against Fylde this weekend.
Yeah, we always knew it would be a difficult start the season, put a new coaching structure in place. And, it's a tight league anyway. So we always thought the first sort of quarter of the season was very tough. We've put what we think is a really good coaching structure in place, and we've still sort of got the core of the side from last year. And I think it's just implementing the new structures. We're quite easy, could have won 2 or 3 of the games. It is going to be a close league and anybody can beat anybody. And it's up to us to work hard, and as a club, not just as a coach, and set up players right down to management of all the teams. They're all working in the right direction, which everybody is. And I think we'll come at the right end of a few results very soon.
Yeah, and I think possibly Neil working hard has underpinned sort of the great work that Tynedale have done, certainly in National League Rugby. Since I've started reporting on the leagues, you guys are very much stalwarts of these divisions. A National One club, just 10 years ago, and regular top six finishes in National Two North. So, how important is that hard work behind the scenes, Neil, to the progression we've seen of Tynedale, but also the strength of the club in the region as well?
Chris, you can't underestimate it. I think it's huge. I mean, I took over as chairman the year we got relegated, so I'm obviously a bit of a jinx because we've had a bad start to this year when I've come in as president as well. But hey, yeah, we set our stall out back then to be the best amateur club that we could possibly be, and I think we've managed to live up to that. And I think the whole ethos and culture is very much around being a very grounded club. There's no big money men. There's no big Mr. Tynedale. It is very much a very dedicated group of variously volunteers, coaches, players, sponsors. Everybody mucks in. Everybody has a little role to play. Everybody does their bit, and actually, that all adds up to one really big, complex jigsaw. But because it's all little pieces, there's not one of them in there that's tending to burn you. But yeah, it takes a huge effort.
We're working really hard to bring talent through the club. This season, we're running 2 cold sides. We're also trying to get 4 senior sides out on a regular basis. So it's all, yes, the first team is at the top of the pyramid at the club, but we've got a great section underneath it. Social players, ones who want to push the first team, the Colts, and the thriving junior section, which is putting out large numbers at every single age group, from under 7s right through to under 18s, which is fantastic. We've got to maintain that, because it's not just about, I know we've had a few disappointing results, but it's about, the club in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years time. And that's where we need to be at. And, as long as we currently Neil and I and a few others are heavily involved in the club, but we need to make sure that we maintain this sort of foundations and ethos in the club, because it's got to be here in so many years' time, and that's massively important for us.
What Peter's just said, he's been through the club from the start, and actually, you look at our first team sheet on a regular basis, and plentifully half of the team are usually homegrown players that have come up through the juniors, come up through the Colts. That's something we work really hard at. We've got over 500 under 18s registered this season, playing junior rugby, and that includes the Colts, but it's still a massive number. You come down on a Sunday morning to pick up your car from a Saturday, and it's almost as busy as on the first team day.
Yeah, and I guess, Neil, as well, that one club feeling ethos around Tynedale Park is also particularly maybe epitomised as well by the Women in Sport lunch, which I know is happening on Saturday. I think it's the second edition of the lunch. I think it was a roaring success by some of the stuff on the club website last year. So again, is that another example of you guys being a one club field, because you are bringing so many different sporting teams from the community in Tynedale and bringing them to your place on a Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, I can't wait actually for Saturday. I'm hoping to take a little bit of a back seat and hand over to Annie Lees, who's one of my VPs, to let her run the day. But we've got numerous different sports represented, from name a few: wheelchair rugby, local golf club, equestrian. We've even got a world champion powerlifter coming along. So yeah, an eclectic mix. But it's sold. This lunch has been sold out for nearly a month.
Yeah, and obviously the bonus, as well as the Women in Sport lunch on Saturday, is your game against Fylde. Obviously, Fylde come into it, Peter, in pretty decent shape themselves. I think they've won the last 3 or 4 games. So I guess you're expecting another tough challenge against another side you're facing who currently sit in the top 6.
I don't think I've ever played against a poor Fylde side ever. They're always a competitive side. Great relationship between the two clubs. It's a place I loved playing years ago, going down there and them coming up here. So expect a really tough encounter. But there's no reason why we can't win the fixture either, even though with a sort of poor start to the season. And I'm sure Fylde will not be coming up here expecting an easy game either.
And you touched on it at the start, Peter, and I can get Neil's thoughts on it as well. Obviously, there was a bit of change at the end of last season in the summer with a new coaching staff coming in with Dean and Carl now there. And obviously, that is, with any club, difficult to deal with when old personnel leave, new personnel come in. So how was that sort of settled so far, Peter? Because obviously Ben was at the club for sort of like 5-6 years, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, I mean, firstly with Dean, he's put 4 kids through the club, 3 sons and a daughter have all played for the club, so he knows the club inside out. Carl's sort of quite new at coaching, and he's thrown his heart and soul into it, and he's been fantastic. Had a great rapport with the players. We've also got Bill Laidler, who's from Austin Friars School, who's been fantastic as well, and also Louis Brown, who is a current player at the Falcons. And Tom Wilkinson, who's been with us for, I think, something like, 10 years, 7, 8 years, maybe possibly longer, And he's been, he's been there, so it gives that little bit of stability as well. In fact, he's been here since 2015. I better not get it wrong, that, because he'll tell us off.
I was about to put you right on that. Yeah, it was 2015 was his first season when he came in. Yeah, but and great guys. I get a lot of good, positive feedback from the players, not just the first team, but the senior guys that train week in, week out, and they've all got good things to say, and for very different reasons about that coaching group. So I think what Peter's pulled together in terms of a balance there, with different skill sets, is a fantastic achievement, and it'll pay us back.
Finally, guys, I had a question for both of you to finish off with. I know we touched on kind of the tough start in terms of the results for Tynedale, but how much would a home win mean on Saturday against Fylde before the break? Because, looking at the fixtures, Peter, before, as I said just in the previous question, you guys after this weekend would have played all of the top 6, I think, already. And then you've got a really interesting chunk of fixtures in the lead up to Christmas. So I guess victory on Saturday would give you a really nice platform going into that second chunk of the season, if you like.
Yeah, I think for getting the first win, I think I would love to see us win for the coaches more than anything. They put so much hard work and effort into what they're trying to do. All the new methods are trying to get drilled into the players, So I think for them, it would be fantastic.
And yeah, I'd echo that, Chris. I'd be delighted. I mean, particularly with what we expect to be a bumper and partisan crowd on Saturday. The only downside is if we win, it'll cost me a fortune.
Yeah. Well,
don't worry, Neil. If we win, Neil, I'll help you out with the bar tab.
Thanks, Peter.
That's on record now, Peter. So there's no getting out of it.
Hey, I don't care.
So massive thanks to both Peter and Neil for their time earlier on this week, and you can clearly see and hear how much the club means to both of them, and also how much a victory would mean to both of them this weekend when they do host Fylde on Saturday afternoon. Kickoff is 3 p.m, but the atmosphere will certainly be getting going from at least 12:30 on Saturday. So do get yourselves down to Tynedale Park for a great afternoon, as well as some excellent National 2 North action. So let's have a look at the rest of the fixtures in round 8, and another game taking place in the North East is Billingham against Sheffield. As we said, Sheffield will be looking to get back on the horse straight away after their narrow loss to Leeds last time out. Billingham actually edged this corresponding fixture 16-14 last season, so will there be a repeat of that result at Billingham on Saturday? Harrogate versus Sheffield Tigers feels like a really big game, with the rest week coming next week. 2 of the bottom 3 sides in National 2 North. Harrogate aiming for back-to-back home wins, whilst the Tigers are looking to register their first victory. League leaders Lim visit 11th placed Hull in round 8, aiming to end the first segment of the season with their perfect record intact. And what a platform that would be for Adam Fletcher and Andy Davies' side going towards Christmas. Leeds Tykes will also be aiming for an 8th successive win when they host Preston Grasshoppers. Pete Seaborn's side have won 17 straight matches at home, so there is a task for Hoppers, who do come into this off the back of a battling but solid 45-29 win over Hull. Otley take on Chester at Cross Green. The visitors got back to winning ways last time out against Tynedale. Tynedale versus Fylde. we have talked about already. And Wharfdale take on Hull Ionians at the Avenue. Both sides ended 3-game losing streaks last time out, but which one will be able to build on that in round 8?